Hello! What can I say about She-Hulk Attorney at Law, Episode 9? Bloody hell, what did I just watch? This episode bounced me like a worn-out rubber ball until I was too deflated to bounce anymore, then stamped the last of the air out of me. On the quick, the show had a promising start that shanked itself as soon as it could, followed by what I can only describe as an episode 3 plotline. Then it did something stupid. Then it did something quite clever and very, very self-referential that could have gone to some very, very important places. Then it funneled itself so far up its own backside I wanted to dip myself. And then it did something even worse. What am I talking about? Let's get into specifics. The episode starts with a dream sequence of the original Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno TV show, but with Jennifer Walters and Bruce Banner deep-faked in. Plus a person was acting as She-Hulk. There's no narrative integration for it, so I can only assume it's a nostalgia grab, and or a meta jab at presumed trolls and other people who wanted a live-action She-Hulk. What a waste. The dream sequence ends with Jennifer waking up in Blonsky's cell, which, based on previous reactions to the abomination, wouldn't hold her, so not sure why she's in here. Jennifer tries to talk about the people who stole her personal information, only to be told she's in trouble for smashing the award ceremony.
This was a targeted attack. They need to be held responsible for this.
They baited you and you took the bait.
I was angry!
You are an out-of-control Hulk. That's what all the witnesses saw.
This is the reality of things being twisted to suit the needs of the writing. Understandably, this show is meant to be about Jennifer and her She-Hulk form. Her facing the consequences of her actions is a good thing to see, but then something needs to be done about the hackers. Jennifer's dad filmed everything on his phone, so it's not like there's no evidence of them. The fact nothing is done about them is a failing on the show's part, and the "that's what witnesses saw" line is lampshading that failure. But this isn't even the worst part of this scene. I'm sorry, but no. Bruce Banner, one of the greatest minds in the MCU, and someone who has dealt with the Hulk for 15 years, according to this show, only a few months ago managed to make an inhibitor for himself. When Jennifer asked him to make one for her, he said he couldn't, that his was only a prototype calibrated to him. So where did this one come from? In episode 3, Blonsky is told he has to wear one to be allowed out of his cell. I questioned why, if they had this technology, they didn't have it on him already. I didn't question why they had it in the first place, because I assumed that having Blonsky in a cage for 15 years would allow some studying of his condition and the opportunity to neutralize it. They sure as hell didn't have that for Jennifer and She-Hulk. And there's no argument for it having a similar effect on a similar superpower. According to Bruce, Jennifer might be similar to him, but she is still different enough that his inhibitor won't work on her. Abomination is even less similar, so no, this thing shouldn't work. Again, the world bends to the writing. What are stakes again? Jennifer is released, but loses her job and is hounded by the press, so she moves back in with her parents, where we are once again reminded that her dad is awesome.
Hey, get off my damn lawn! I got water pressure for days.
And her mother is an arse.
But my gym stuff is in your room now, and I work out every day at 7 a.m.
Oh, that's right. You can't be Girl Hulk anymore.
It's She-Hulk, Mom!
Then Jennifer complains that this isn't the story she wanted and asks the audience if they're liking it. as if somehow the writer's decisions are our fault. Then we get another reference.
Jennifer Walters is a woman at a new low. She has no more
No,
fight
we're
in
not
her.
doing a narrator. We're not that off the rails.
Off the rails? What does that mean? Am I missing something? There's something wrong with the writing when I'm sitting here trying to decipher this crap and there's no answer. This is especially weird when it's referencing the original Hulk series and the opening dream sequence. Show? Drunk home, go are you? Then Jennifer decides to visit Blonsky.
I'm not running from my problems. It's a mental health break.
Oh, you know what that is, do you? Would have been nice of you to acknowledge that as a thing in other people earlier in the series, you defective mouth organ. She goes to Blonsky's place and... I was going to go through Nikki's story in this episode, but all it amounts to is... Nikki meets Jennifer at the Intelligentsia meeting being held at Blonsky's place. Yeah, Blonsky is hosting a speaking engagement as the Abomination for the Intelligentsia, which brings up so many questions, none of which are going to be answered. They didn't even answer the question of why these guys with guns turned up at the award ceremony last episode. Anyway, the one thing I will say about Nikki's story is she posts Jennifer's college dancing video onto a website that hates Jennifer and calls herself a genius for doing so. You are a terrible friend. Granted, Jennifer is a terrible human being, so birds of a feather? Before everything goes to pot, Mr. Creepy turns out to be the owner of Intelligentsia. Shocker, I know. And then this happens.
Why is it?
When I saw this, the first thing I thought was,
My blood got into your system. You got a lethal dose of gamma radiation.
Lethal? As in I'm gonna die?
I imagine Mr. Creepy would inject himself, possibly transform, and ultimately collapse from massive radiation sickness, which would be a comically subversive, anticlimactic ending to this episode. Instead, we get this.
Surprise, losers.
I'm out of here, man.
Watch out!
Bruce?
Is this necessary?
None of these storylines make any sense.
Then the show ends and cuts to the Disney Plus homepage. But then She-Hulk pops out of her episode and goes to Marvel Studios to hunt down the writing team. This was shocking and a welcome surprise, especially when She-Hulk complains to the writers about how terrible the writing is.
There are certain things that are supposed to happen in a superhero story.
Why don't we just do things our own way?
This is the story that Kevin wants. No one talks to Kevin.
I would murder you to protect Kevin.
Okay, this is very creepy, the way you're talking about him. It's not healthy.
Blimey heck, they're being self-aware. Like, really self-aware. Are we about to get a complete turnaround of the show? Is something about to happen we never thought possible? No, it's not. Just a quick look around the office before we move on. A plethora of post-it notes under episode 108, which seems a bit hopeful at this point, unless that's meant to be Series 1 Episode 8, in which case that's way too many notes for that episode. All this random rubbish on the whiteboard. A lot could have been done here, and maybe there might be something here in higher res images, but yeah, disappointing to say the least. So She-Hulk goes to see Kevin Feige, and there's a moment you think the little bastard might turn up on the show. But then...
Hello, Jennifer. Knowledge Enhanced Visual Interconnectivity Nexus.
I'm in two minds about this. On the one hand, haha, very funny, Marvel writing is done by an emotionless robot, that's why it's as bad as it is. On the other, I would have liked to have seen the actual Kevin Feige in the show defending this bollocks. We do get some funny comments.
We'll answer your questions, but you must first transform back to Jennifer. You are very expensive.
Oh, sure.
But wait until the camera is off you. There, do it now.
Better?
Thank you.
Regardless of creative ownership, can we agree that it is a legal comedy?
If that's what you prefer to call it.
And when are we getting the X-Men?
I cannot tell you that. See you on the big screen.
Really?
No. But Bruce is supposed to return to explain what he was doing
No,
on
we don't need to hear any of that.
But we were going to introduce...
Save it for the movie.
Keep hold of that last one. But this Gladys knockoff gives us an opportunity. This is the representative of Marvel Studios' writing, the embodiment of what people have been complaining about. On top of that, the show is pointing out how bad the writing is. The possibilities are endless. So what do they do with it?
The Marvel Cinematic Universe is known for its big spectacles and high-stakes plot lines, but it's often said that Marvel movies all end the same way. Perhaps this is a result of following some unwritten rule that you have to throw a bunch of plot and flash and a whole blood thing that seems super suspiciously close to Super Soldier Serum at the audience in the climax.
Yes, good, keep going, say something meaningful.
Distracts from the story, which is that my life fell apart right when I was learning to be both Jen and She-Hulk.
Yog, damn it, we were so close. A speech about the general failings of the MCU, hamstrung by the writers wanting to focus on their character. Jennifer goes on to ask why so many MCU heroes have daddy issues, forgetting what her mother is like.
We got Tony Stark, daddy issues.
Jen.
Thor, daddy issues. Loki, same daddy, same issues.
Oh boy.
But my gym stuff is in your room now, and you should join me. Workout buddies. Oh, this will be fun. When is this work going to be out of my living room?
As soon as I get justice for everything that's happened, and I can't do that if you're hovering.
Okay.
And it only gets worse when Jennifer, who has complained about how men are sexist misogynists throughout the series, says this.
Would not mind seeing Daredevil again. A woman has needs.
Historically, we've been light in that department.
Well, yeah, that's what Hulks do. We smash things. Bruce smashes buildings, I smash fourth walls and bad endings. And sometimes Matt Murdock.
Imagine, if you will, one of the male MCU heroes saying this about a female counterpart. I doubt that would be celebrated online. Also, historically light in that department. So what the bloody hell is all this then? Show all of the six-packs and no one bats an eye. Show one cake and everyone loses their minds. This whole scene was a massive, wasted opportunity to do something good, not only for the show, but for the MCU as a whole, dragging the She-Hulk series from the pits of meh to the heights of ooh. Instead, it raises our hopes just to smash them into the floor. And we're not even done yet. There is no reworking of the final confrontation, we just skip to all the loose ends being wrapped up. Mr. Creepy is arrested, Titania is just there, Daredevil literally drops out of the sky, and Blonsky goes back to prison. Keep that last one in mind too. Jennifer goes to a family get-together, and so does Matt for some reason. The family are still awful, by the way. Then Bruce turns up. Remember what Not Gladys said earlier? They decided to keep that in.
But we were going to introduce...
Save it for the movie.
I have someone here that I'd like you all to meet. This is my son, Scar.
For those that don't know, there is a story arc in the comics called Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. I highly suggest reading them. They are great standalone stories that don't need much in the way of foreknowledge. One of the results of those long and in some parts traumatic stories is the birth of Hulk's son, Scar, who would end up being a bit of a so-and-so, to put it mildly. Due to various legal and creative issues, Planet Hulk would be merged into Thor Ragnarok, apparently killing that storyline. But now we have Scar just popping up out of nowhere, and he's apparently safe enough to introduce to Bruce's extended family. Who thought this was a good idea? And that's all we get on that, by the way. Just, hey, here he is, and then next scene. Bloody hell, show. The next scene has She-Hulk telling a reporter,
The message we're sending is that if you attack, harm, or harass innocent people, I'm coming for you.
Do you mean in the courtroom or as a superhero?
Both.
I don't know about you, but surely after the award ceremony incident, this should be a scary prospect for everyone. And then, remember the other thing I told you to hold on to? Wong breaks Blonsky out of prison. Permanently. And they even get some quips in.
You took your time. You got sucked into another show, didn't you?
We're really in an era of peak TV.
And that, lads and lasses, is any self-awareness about the state of the MCU gone down the drain. All but probably one of the MCU's small screen offerings has been awful to one degree or another. This statement is completely lacking in the self-awareness we thought the show was presenting earlier. And that's the end of the episode. And the series. If this is what I've got to expect from She-Hulk, I highly doubt I'll be going anywhere near Series 2. Once again, bloody hell, show. It's safe to say my Great Expectations video was just that. Even possibilities the show itself inadvertently hinted at didn't come to anything. The law firm being evil, Nikki being a Skrull, Mr. Misogyny getting a soul. None of it came to pass. Only the obvious stuff like Mr. Creepy being the head of Intelligentsia came to fruition, and even that was tepid. I kept my hopes up to the very end, expecting something would come of all this. Now those hopes have been smothered like they hugged She-Hulk too hard. The fourth wall break into Marvel Studios was the best thing the show ever did. Indeed, the best thing any of the Marvel shows have done. But all the problems leading up to it made it fall flat on its face. To say the least, She-Hulk Attorney at Law has been a big green disappointment. And yet, it needn't have been. In my last review of She-Hulk, I said that episode 8 felt like episode 2 of another story. This was an extrapolation of an idea. In my first review of this show, I was informed that episode 1 was in fact meant to be a latter episode. This makes sense given how long the first episode is in comparison to how short the second is, and how they both compare to all the others. With this in mind, here's how I think the series should have gone. Episode 1 starts with the courtroom fight, starting the series off with a bang. This leads into the title, then we're off down the pub where Jennifer gets fired. Essentially, the end of episode 1 and the whole of episode 2 should have been episode 1. So what would have happened to Bruce and Jennifer? That becomes episode 8, taking place after the award ceremony rageout, which becomes episode 7. Essentially, the Bruce-Jennifer stuff becomes a pre-end of series flashback. It will do what a lot of other shows do and interrupt current events, making the audience, hopefully, want to see them more. And it would have referenced stuff that would have already happened in the show.
Smart Hulk. Yeah, I didn't come up with it. You never have a choice with these names.
That name better not stick.
Smart Hulk. I didn't come up with it.
You use it. Implied endorsement.
Don't lawyer me.
It's stuck. So now whether I like it or not, I am forever She-Hulk.
So, now that I've actually analyzed your blood samples, it's way too dangerous to get out in the world, even if there's only a 1,000,000% chance that it makes another one of us.
Thunderball, did you get it? No. Once you turned into She-Hulk, I couldn't pierce that nasty green skin.
I don't think you have thought through how dangerous this level of power is. You know the damage you can cause? One mistake, one freakout is literally life or death.
Okay, I'll be careful.
You can't be emotional. Forget Hulk rage. Just regular anger means death and destruction for everything and everyone around you. And I'm telling you, when people start seeing you as a monster that never goes away.
Fine. Teach me how to Hulk, please. Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time.
Okay. So you're not mad at the name She-Hulk?
No, I don't care. Like, the most over it.
You're crushing your stapler.
What?
I'm gonna need you to sit in the calming chair right now.
As soon as I'm out of there, I'm gonna rip this guy to shreds.
Oh, hold on.
Don't do it. Maybe you didn't mean to be mean. So, I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Now that is irony!
Arranging the episodes like this would also have prevented two major issues that this show had. The Bruce Jennifer episode was a mix of emotions: light-hearted, joking, serious, sad. This would have fit in well straight after the Rage Out episode and worked into the beginning of the last. It definitely didn't fit in well with the rest of the series, but that wouldn't have been a problem if it was episode 8. As episode 1, people got false expectations, leading those people to be disappointed by the short, entirely not serious episodes thereafter. Then there's the anti-male comments. Remove episode 1 and there are still plenty of moments to be pointed out.
It's so dumb. I can't even exist without being a derivative of the Hulk. God, is this why they hired me? I am totally qualified, but now everyone around here is always going to think this is the only reason I got the job. These dodos never had to deal with this on their first day at work.
When you change your mind, I'll be at the bar.
Wow. See, that guy is exactly why I don't date.
There are plenty of non-gross people out there for you to date. Hetero life is grim.
The amazing hair, no hangover, being able to walk home at night with headphones on without being afraid.
Every woman's dream.
Holloway could never have gone through that. He's never had to prove his value to a parade of underwhelming men. Have literal superpowers, and some guy with an internet connection will still think he can do better.
Yes! Like, think about everything that She-Hulk brings to the table, and those guys were my best option.
To be fair, that is a fair few comments, and there are others that are made about specific people which I find less egregious but probably still count. But that isn't much of a muchness in a series that amounts to 4 hours? There isn't even a comment or reference every episode. However, we were all very much keeping an ear out for these comments because of the Bruce Jennifer episode and that speech.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or I might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
As an introduction to Jennifer Walters, this wasn't great. But if it had been in episode 8, after we had spent some time with her, this might not have been so bad. Even more so when a lot of what happens in that episode would have been blatantly ironic. Unfortunately, the series did what it did, and first impressions can't be undone. So what was that about episode 8 feeling like an episode 1 or 2? Take my revised episode 1 with the courtroom fight, firing and hiring. Follow that with episode 8, or an alternate version of it. That includes Daredevil telling Jennifer about using her She-Hulk powers outside of court, and the rage out scene from the award ceremony. The rest of the series would be all the filler court cases capped off with investigating intelligentsia leading to the confrontation at the end. You could even have Blonsky's case being in most of the episodes. But as has been pointed out to me and made evident by the show itself, the writers clearly weren't up to the challenge of writing such mildly expansive storytelling. The only real attempt at making a solid through line for this series was Jennifer Walters dealing with being She-Hulk. The problem is there was no separation between the two beyond looks and powers. It would be the equivalent of saying, I really like Captain America but not Steve Rogers, or I really like Iron Man but not Tony Stark. There are no downsides to being She-Hulk either, other than the trolls, most of whom make no sense in the universe, and the hot doctor who likes She-Hulk but not Jennifer for some reason. The conflict here was as skin deep as the differences between the two women, and it was hardly worth watching the show to see this conflict being settled. This might have been solved by having a likeable character to follow. But outside of those casual natters I liked, Jennifer Walters is incredibly selfish and egotistical, and amazingly stupid, especially when it comes to her job. So what was the point of the show? What did it achieve, and what did we get out of it? We got the She-Hulk character in the MCU. There were some funny moments. It introduced Daredevil. Oh wait, no, Spider-Man did that. The list of positives for She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law ain't exactly long. The list of negatives could be a whole video unto itself. Overall, this series was meant to be a mostly harmless bit of fun that was tripped up by the writing that sent it hurtling into the pit of sludge we call the MCU. This has been the She-Hulk Attorney-at-Law Episode 9 review and series overview. To say the least, the ending left a sour taste in my mouth. So much potential gone down the drain. Unless there is a tremendous upheaval in writing standards, this will be the last time I'm going anywhere near it. Or, potentially, even the MCU in general. We can but hope, I suppose. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to go look up some of my other content. I swear there's videos about better stuff. Also, feel free to do all the YouTube stuffs, and links to my Patreon and Etsy store will be in the description as always. Last but not least, thank you for watching.